What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about SoFi. I want to go over some of the data points, break it down on what really moved in, go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So SoFi had a absolutely amazing day, by far the best stock on my watch list. Went up 6.75%, 26.68 the low, 28.80 for the high, and a massive amount of volume. So 121 million shares being traded, 67 is the average. So it did get dragged down midway throughout the day, so I'll kind of talk about what caused that. But essentially, there was no news from SoFi, no SEC filings. Even coming from a macro standpoint, there wasn't really any data points today to really move the market. A lot of Fed speakers, and they ultimately were part of the culprits on why it did go down, but there wasn't really anything. Even on social media, SoFi didn't really post anything. You did have Anthony, so I did miss this yesterday, so kind of a little bit more of a jab towards Robinhood, but when they did have their outage, Anthony reposted the kind of notice of Robinhood being down. So kind of comical there. Only other thing that kind of came out was Anthony just saying thanks to Jim Cramer for featuring us on Mad Money. Watch him break down SoFi. So they do have a YouTube link right there, and if you actually click on it, it actually shows, which I'll play this at the very end of the video, but it does show it is unlisted. So I don't know if SoFi meant to actually put this out, because of course this did come out 8 hours ago, this post. So I don't know if there was something in here that maybe they didn't want to state, but still, nonetheless, though, I think Jim Cramer speaking very positively on SoFi. I don't know if that's something to panic over or not, but nonetheless, this did occur October the 3rd. So a little bit of go, and maybe that's actually why SoFi did kind of go down. But the big thing why SoFi really moved higher was this. So Trump administration considers a sale of federal student loan debt. So looks like the Trump administration is looking to sell part of the 1.6 trillion student loan portfolio in the private market. So that is huge and a very big opportunity for SoFi, right? So refinancing opportunities, possibly massive loan originations. So generally speaking, this is good. There was no time frames that's listed in here. They're just thinking of it as a hypothetical, but this is exactly why SoFi did move higher. And it goes to show the biggest difference between SoFi and other fintech lenders is that Upstart actually did get dragged down with the broader market. SoFi moved higher. So again, that was kind of the big difference today, but yeah, amazing stuff. One thing that did cause a little bit more of a disruption in the broader market and caused SoFi to momentarily go down to the low of that 26.68 was a lot of Fed speakers running their mouth, and some even talking about stagflation, how potentially a lot of the data is kind of pointing that we're heading into a period of stagflation. And so I do tend to disagree with that, only because a lot of the inflationary data points have actually been showing that things are going down, not up. And even though Powell has been somewhat worried about labor and the unemployment and so forth, I do feel that as what even Powell mentioned, a lot of that is linked to AI. So it's not being kind of a true increase in my opinion, but still, nonetheless, I think the circumstances are not there for stagflation. And I think that's always been a very touchy subject, because every time a Fed speaker has ever brought up stagflation, the market gets like this. At the same time, you did have JP Morgan's CEO coming out saying that, hey, you know what, 2026 might be rocky. And kind of funny though, every time Jamie opens his mouth, you pretty much have that type of mentality. The market assumes the worst, but if you actually look back, he almost says that almost like every 6 months. So it's just a lot of doom and gloom type of speaking, and that's killing the sentiment a little bit, but none of it is kind of justifying of today's pullback. So I myself, I did buy the dip on a lot of different stocks. I don't know if you guys did, but I think today's push lower was very unjustified. But nonetheless, SoFi did absolutely amazing today. Aside from all that though, looking at shorts, they did return 672,000 shares. So again, even further validating today's green day. 9.7% of the free float is being shorted, works out to be 115.02 million shares overall being shorted. Cost to borrow minimum still being negative, so there's some signs of manipulation there, but nothing overly crazy. Looking at the options, so I saw a lot of articles coming out just bringing up how SoFi is on the same level as Tesla and Apple, a lot of the big companies that always get like massive amount of volume. SoFi was being brought up in those articles. So definitely good to see a lot of money paying attention to SoFi through options. 144 million in calls, 20 million in puts. 46% of all the options being done were bullish in nature. Most of that was actually in the first part of the trading day though, so definitely good to see. And almost every 5 minutes, especially in the first about 2 hours of the trading day, there was at least $5 million in premiums. So crazy stuff. Looking at this though, from a bull standpoint, you do see a consensus for it to be roughly around that 29 to 29.50 by the end of this week. Bears are anticipating for it to be sub 27 for the most part. So there is a lot more upside than down. And again, based on the frequency, there is a lot more upside. These are some of the transactions that did occur on the secondary market. And so again, good stuff. It is oriented based on premiums. Actually, I'll hit refresh just so it does happen. So today you had some big ones: 55.8 million, 18.2, 9.8, 4.4, 4.2, 3.7. So a lot of big money was getting in on the secondary market. Even looking at the dark pool, I'll just hit refresh one more time just to see. So you did have one that just happened right after the market did close, and that was a very crazy 183.3 million. So just popping over here, that's crazy. Absolutely insane. So some big institution did buy in. Regrettably, we will not be able to find out exactly who that entity was up until the next 13F. And so since we are now officially in Q4 right now, we will not be finding out up until February. So we kind of have to sit tight, but some institution bought $183 million. So someone knows something. In the market, there's always someone that knows something ahead of time. So that's something to take note of. 11.3 million as well, 11.2, 2.9. So massive amount of money was getting in. SoFi with it closing at 28.14. It is trading between these 2 points. So this R1 and the pivot. So 26.81. It was able to successfully get over that like it was nothing and really break higher. 29.33 is going to be the next strong target / resistance, followed by 30.89. So just a hop, skip, and a jump away from that $30 range. Aside from all that fun stuff, quickly popping over here. So things are looking pretty a-okay if you ask me. So looks like it was able to successfully fight above and get above that 10-day moving average. So yeah, big momentum starting to build. Comparing today versus yesterday, you have a lot more willing buyers. So I think basically it bouncing off of that 50-day moving average caused kind of FOMO. And at the same time, maybe that does make sense. I did not realize that Jim Cramer kind of spoke positively about SoFi. So maybe that's why SoFi also did have that crazy volatile day on Friday. But nonetheless, the curse maybe is not real this time. And keep in mind, I think technically back in, when was it, $17? I think somewhere around here, he actually was bullish on SoFi and it caused it to go higher. So maybe the curse isn't really affecting SoFi possibly. But aside from that, you did see a lot of algorithmic trading based on this. And I'm sure a lot of that was feeding off of that article that I did bring up about the federal loans, $1.6 trillion. So there was no new ratings or anything like that. So just the one that came out a couple days back from BTIG. But nonetheless, I think SoFi is on a warpath and it is wanting to hit a new 52-week and possibly all-time high leading into their upcoming earnings. So let me know your thoughts on SoFi. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up. Give yourself a shout out if you did buy or if you sold or what you did with SoFi. One final thing, pop over to my Patreon if you're looking for some solid buy signals on stocks, options, crypto. I put out daily day trades, numerous swing trades, worthwhile to kind of pop over there and check that out. But like I mentioned, I'm going to quickly play this. If there is anything on here that is random or something that shouldn't have been possibly said, because like I mentioned, it is now listed as unlisted, so ultimately meaning that this is not searchable. So it was simply just for this post, so anyone clicking on this can actually listen to it, but you can't find it itself on YouTube. So kind of interesting. Thumbs up just for that. And with that said, I appreciate all of you watching.
We're finally getting a meaningful pullback in one of the hottest stocks of the year, SoFi Technologies. The Fintech disruptor has become the digital bank of choice for millions of younger customers. Now, I've been recommending this one for years, even when the stock struggled. I think SoFi's got a great concept. I've always believed in its bankable CEO, Anthony Noto, going way back to the days when he was still an analyst at Goldman Sachs. But from 2022 through 2024, SoFi just couldn't get any traction at all. With the stock stuck in the mid-single digits, every time it started to rally, it would lose its momentum. Even after SoFi made a big move around this time last year, breaking into the mid-teens for the first time in almost 3 years, the stock sputtered earlier this year, dragged down by tariff worries like the rest of the market. By the time we reached the post-Liberation Day washout in early April, SoFi was back in the high single digits. But over the past 6 months, SoFi feels like an idea whose time has come. From the stock's April low of $8.60 to its high of $30 and change set early last week, this darn thing has shot up more than 250%. As of today, it's pulled back to $25 and change, but it's still nearly triple from the April lows. And it's up a quick 57% since we last spoke to the CEO near the end of June. So as a longtime SoFi bull, I feel pretty darn vindicated these days. And I've got to tell you, I think this one's not finished going higher. The first thing you need to understand is that this rally was driven by genuinely great numbers. SoFi's total member count has more than doubled from 5.2 million in 2022 to 11.7 million in the latest quarter, and it's on track to reach nearly 13 million by the end of the year. The revenue has more than doubled, too, from 1.5 billion in 2022 to an expected 3.4 billion this year. But unlike previous rallies, this time I think the moves got legs because SoFi is finally profitable with excellent earnings growth. Last year, SoFi had its first positive earnings result, making 15 cents per share. And that's expected to more than double to 31 cents this year. That's important because while SoFi looks pretty expensive at 81 times this year's earnings estimates, 81 times earnings is actually pretty reasonable for a company with 107% earnings growth. Next year, they're expected to earn 55 cents per share, meaning the stock sells for actually 46 times the 2026 numbers. Okay, still expensive, but not relative to the 77% earnings growth that Wall Street expects from this company next year. It's much easier to stick your neck out for a seemingly expensive stock with phenomenal earnings growth. Hey, by the way, I wouldn't be surprised if SoFi outperforms these earnings estimates. This company has developed a reputation for outperforming the estimates, and lately that outperformance has been particularly strong. SoFi's actually been doing this for a while. Now, I went back and checked, and SoFi's beaten both sales and EBITDA estimates every darn time since it came public in 2021. Can you imagine that? Over the past 7 quarters in particular, SoFi has also reported much better than expected earnings per share. In fact, when the company reported its latest numbers in late July, the quarter, I'm calling it fantastic. Total members and products were both up 34% year over year, both records. Adjusted revenue grew 44% year over year, trouncing the estimates, with a fee revenue of a staggering 72%. That's fantastic. So how the heck has SoFi been able to put up these incredible numbers? Well, the company keeps expanding its banking offerings to the point where it's now more of a full-service financial institution, one that already has won the trust of younger consumers. SoFi wasn't originally just an online lender, a place you could turn to for student loans, personal loans, and later on mortgages. They now offer home equity loans of credit, and auto loan refinancing options too, plus credit cards. In the years before SoFi came public in 2021, it launched a couple rudimentary versions of its bank account and investing platforms, but they've really flourished in the past few years, especially after the company obtained a national banking charter in early 2022. SoFi now offers legitimate bank accounts, checking accounts, and high-yield savings accounts with very competitive interest rates, which are many multiples of what you get from one of the big national banks. Their standard savings account yields 3.8%. Try getting that from JP Morgan or Bank of America. As for SoFi's investing platform, while it's not as popular as Robinhood's, it's still pretty darn good. At this point, they've got self-directed investing, retirement accounts, robo investing, and custom ETFs. SoFi members even have the ability to access select IPOs, which was unthinkable not that long ago. Getting a piece of these deals can be pretty darn lucrative. And after backing away from crypto trading for a bit in order to get that banking charter, SoFi is starting to dip its toes back into that space too. Outside of the core lending, banking, and investing options, SoFi also sells insurance and plenty of other helpful services like credit monitoring, budgeting tools, and even estate planning services. About 3 years ago, SoFi also rolled out a premium membership program called SoFi Plus. Management says that this Plus plan now offers over $1,000 in value via rewards, benefits, and preferred pricing, along with other perks like access to financial planners. And it costs you $10 a month, or nothing if you sign up for direct deposit. That's the real point. SoFi is a real bank now. Millennials and Zoomers get comfortable going to them for some initial products, say a student loan or a $5,000 personal loan to pay off some credit card debt, and then they learn that they can get a checking account and stick around. Once they get a little more money, they can use SoFi's high-yield savings accounts or their investing platform. Maybe they get their mortgage through SoFi later on, but the point is SoFi is increasingly getting customers for life, and investors finally appreciate the immense scale of the opportunity here. Let me give you the bottom line. I've been recommending SoFi for years because I realized that they had a unique hold on younger people, and over the past 12 months or so, that's really started to pay off. The stock's caught fire, and thanks to its recent sell-off over the past couple of weeks, you're now getting a chance to buy it at a relative discount for the first time in ages. While I'm not expecting SoFi to triple again over the next 6 months, it wouldn't shock me if it can put up a similar performance over the next 3 to 5 years. Mad Money is back after the break.